Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. And it seems like, wow, just last Saturday a week ago, we were in Las Vegas for the Lee Steinberg Super Bowl party. And whoa, boy, what a time that was. Now it's like that was a dream and this is reality. Oh, the reality is not so bad. But I'm not here to talk to you about that right now. We are going to have a live stream to reminisce about that fantastic event. But right now, I want to talk to you about Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao and this supposed chase for Major League Baseball expansion and the lack of any vision behind it. Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao claims that the City of Oakland is in talks about landing the right to form a Major League Baseball expansion franchise. And that's no small potatoes, okay? But here we go again. Here we go again with the newbies, the current mayor of Oakland and her crew playing Lone Ranger once again and thinking they can dupe the public into believing they'll get the right to a Major League Baseball expansion franchise their way. Not the way, but their way, okay? It's secret to us. It's ours. Mine is their approach. Where's the beef? Or where's the big picture? As Chicago planner Danial Burnham said a long time ago, but someone who was a focus of me as a city planning and architecture major at Texas Arlington and as a city planning aficionado and studier in high school when I was taking drafting course after drafting course after drafting course. They didn't have city planning at high school, but my teacher, Mr. Rothman, encouraged me to go into it, but I digress. Danial Burnham said this. He was a great Chicago planner that created the Cartesian coordinate system of Chicago and the lakefront and everything else. Make no little plans, he wrote. They have no magic to stir men's blood and probably will not themselves be realized. Make big plans. Aim high and hope and work, remembering that a noble, logical diagram, once recorded, will never die. But long after we are gone, will be a living thing, asserting itself with ever-growing insistency. Remember that our sons and grandsons are going to do things that would stagger us. Now, of course, you want to modify that for today because you can add in daughters and granddaughters, right? But you get the idea. Say what you will about concept drawings, they at least serve to provide a vision of what the public is to expect from the completion of a stadium or ballpark, right? Or more, or for that matter, a auto plan, an airport, or a cafe. And more importantly, the maker of the image has at least given the matter considerable thought and expresses it by producing just that. The visual representation of what is intended. The City of Oakland under Mayor Sheng Thao has not done that to date. Heck, even though Howard Terminal didn't get done, give Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf credit for backing the Oakland A's big vision version of the ballpark. The one that was done by Bjarke Ingels with the renderings and everything else. You'd have to have been an android not to get jazzed about the ballpark design that Bjarke Ingels came up with. All right? At the end of the day, if Libby got Howard Terminal done, she should have written her political ticket, and she could have written her political ticket had she done it. All right? Those drawings for Howard Terminal gave Mayor Schaaf currency she then proceeded to blow by picking the wrong people to get it done. By comparison, what has Mayor Thao done? What does she have? All right? Nothing. Words communicated to what tiny little mainstream media is left. That's it. Certainly not Zenny 62 Media, mistake on her part, but no drawings to show. Thus, while she yaps that the A's haven't released their new drawings yet, you're in the mayor is in talks with Major League Baseball for an Oakland expansion team. Mayor Thao? Really? Show your cards, your drawings. Another example of Oakland not having its own house in order. Mayor Thao doesn't seem to understand that getting elected mayor of Oakland doesn't mean you're doing the job of being mayor of Oakland. It's the old saying. You got into office. Now you have to prove you have what it takes to stay in office. In this instance, Mayor Thao not coming up with anything to show for her time as the mayor of Oakland presiding over the ballpark situation. And what is she doing about the Coliseum JPA? Did you know that the time is almost up for the JPA? It's fast approaching 2025 when the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority is set to sunset. Yep. This Oakland vlogger is the only person who's worked with Oakland Council member Rebecca Kaplan, who's also the chair of the JPA, to at least point a picture to a positive tax increment finance fueled future. An enhanced infrastructure financing district ran by Public Financing Authority / Stadium Authority. That's on the table. Did Sheng Thao and her crew pick up the ball and run with it? Nope. We're waiting. I'm waiting. We're waiting. But Major League Baseball is not going to wait for long. Indeed, they already haven't. The A's are on their way to Las Vegas, like it or not. Fire up the vision for Oakland's tourism future, Mayor Thao. Get the drawings made. Call my friends Ben Garcia in LA and Deshaun Dixon in Oakland and have them come up, join up. That'll be an exciting team to produce something massively cool. A ballpark village at Coliseum City that points the way to an exciting future. And then call me to come up with a financing plan. After all, Mayor Thao, you know you want to. You know it. All right, now I'll take your comments. Hoper says, is Oakland really serious about obtaining a Major League Baseball team, or is this all just talk? Well, right now, it really is just talk because there's no material behind it. There's no drawings, no financing plan, nothing. Just talk. And Shang's strategy is, hey, as long as I can get the ear of someone in the mainstream media, at least the older heads who follow that form of media will believe me and start saying, well, she's got something, when in point of fact, they have nothing to show. Zero. All right? Hoper says, assuming that the A's move to Vegas and Major League Baseball adds 2 expansion teams, then the most likely cities are Nashville and Salt Lake City. Are other cities in contention for expansion team? Well, as far as I'm concerned, Oakland is number 1. And it should be. It's standard location, by the water, coast, part of the, by any measure, 5th or 6th largest economy in the entire world, and that's the state of California. And then if you take the Bay Area separately, arguably the Bay Area is the 20th largest economy in the world. So Major League Baseball should be here. Now, for those who would say, wait a minute, they have just the Giants, I argue that if the New York region could have both the New York Mets and the New York Yankees, then the San Francisco Bay Area, which is not a lot smaller, can have 2 teams and has had 2 teams. The success of the Athletics is due more to stadium design or lack thereof and an undercapitalized team because of the fact that it was in an old-fashioned multi-purpose stadium where everybody divvies up the pie. That's not something you can do and expect success today, unless, of course, the government's footing almost the entire bill. All right? So Hoper says it would take guts and a risky bet, but Oakland could just build the Howard Terminal ballpark on spec. Salt Lake City might just do that. I'm for building Howard Terminal on spec, but I am for getting our act together, and that's not on spec. And what I mean by that is this. Before we build a stadium, we have to establish a public financing authority. We have to establish a separate body that allows us, a stadium authority, to have meetings that are focused singularly and with people who sit on those boards who are focused directly on that project, as opposed to the city council, which has literally a million things on its plate and never had a regular monthly update of the Howard Terminal. All right. There was no official website for Howard Terminal where everything was in order. Indeed, if you take a look at what's there now at the city's website, not a standalone for Howard Terminal at all, but the links for what happened when are quite literally all over the place. You look down, you say, okay, well, this one should follow the other one, and then it doesn't, and then it follows that one, okay? No, that's not the way it's developed, okay? So, no. When does the Howard Terminal permit expire? Well, that technically expired last year because, first of all, there was never a permit. Let's get this out of the way. The environmental impact report is still in limbo. And as of Friday, the city had 120 days to cure the remedy regarding wind noise. Now, what the city did last December was very quietly change the law so that wind noise was no longer a necessary part of an environmental impact report in the Oakland context. The trouble is that when the city did that, it was in the middle of this challenge, this legal challenge to the Howard Terminal EIR, and so the merit to the Pacific Maritime Association that filed a lawsuit against the EIR is now trying to figure out how it's going to answer the city's remedy. It's very controversial because you would say, on one hand, hey, it's a brilliant answer for them to just say, oh, you know what? We don't need a wind noise ordinance anymore. Take it away, which is what the council did. But how then do you address all of the other developments that have been impacted by the existence of that ordinance? Okay, you can't just take something away like that and say, okay, problem solved. It's a dicey situation, but that's where they are right now. But the bottom line is, with that situation dangling, all right, the EIR is still not perfected. So you can't have permits until you have a perfected EIR. That's just law. So basically, you couldn't do anything right now. You just can't, okay? There's still a lot of loose ends to be tied up, but the mayor does a good job of fooling people who don't have the time to look, which is why you come to me. And fools people. It's not the right way to do things, okay? It is completely wrong. Otis Sistrunk, University of Mars, 1976. It sounds like it's time for you to contact the mayor and propose what you and your people can bring to the table and help her and the city out. Hey, University of Mars, Sheng Thao and I had a sit down via Zoom on the 2nd of February of the year 2022. Okay? Yeah, when she was council member, specifically because she wanted to learn more about enhanced infrastructure financing district legislation and tax increment financing. But she told me she didn't want anybody to know about the meeting. Why? Then I discovered in the meeting, even though she had homework for me, she didn't want to pay me. Then she claimed she had a consultant already. So why would you want to sit down with me, a 37-year tax increment financing expert, and literally waste my time, all right, with these, a 30-minute presentation about how you want to learn more and what you want to do? Sure, she wanted to bounce some ideas off, but she clearly wanted to hear something from me more than what she got. And she wasn't honest about what it was, and I didn't appreciate it. And then she subsequently ignored every interview request I issued. So I thought, fine, you're going to play it like that. I'm going to play it my way. I'm going to tell the truth about what you did. Okay? So she knows, and our people know what I'm capable of doing. But for reasons best known to them, that generally boil down the race, they don't want to say, hey, look, ignite him. And the reason why I say it like that is simply that when it comes to economic development in Oakland, since Mayor Schaaf, the people who've done the economic development really since, since Mayor Shaft have been white. Prior to Mayor Shaft, we had Fred Blackwell, that was Gene Kwan. But it was quite clear to Fred that, hey, Gene, the person who put him in the position of chief of economic development and then city administrator, wasn't going to win the election, so he jumped ship to the San Francisco Foundation. All right. He was the last black economic development director Oakland has had. And if you look at Oakland in general, do they have economic development staff now? Yeah, they do. Because I met some of them online. One African American, but not the director, and also new. My point is that the city has been content to have someone who doesn't represent the, frankly speaking, interests of those who most need economic development help. African Americans and poorer Asians, for example, Vietnamese, Laotian, and so on. Okay, that's just a fact. And it's a key reason, I argue, why Oakland has not addressed its problems in the modern age, unlike the way we used to address them when our economic development directors were black. And when I was hired in 1987 to work first as an intern for the Office of Economic Development and Employment within the Oakland Redevelopment Agency, where my focus was the Coliseum redevelopment area, where I created something called the Area Redevelopment Economic Model. All right, so let me get back to your question there. All right, so Hopper says Fiser gave up on Oakland because city government wanted to provide all of the Howard Terminal low-income housing, a community package, etc. No wonder Fiser gave up. Well, he gave up because it wasn't the city government wanted to provide it. If the city government wanted to provide it, the A's would have stuck around, because it would have meant that the city had stuck with its initial promise to use tax increment financing to allow the community benefits portion of Howard Terminal to be paid for. But that wasn't done. It was left to dangle. It was left undone, unaddressed. Offsite infrastructure was originally supposed to be paid for via tax increment financing as well. But guess what? The city tried to fluff that off on the A's. Affordable housing was supposed to be paid for, as we did it historically, through gap financing. In other words, the amount of money that a new multifamily development needs to charge by rent to pencil out, all right, makes it at a high market level. But the idea is to provide a subsidy to lower that to where a rent can be affordable, right? That gap financing is what the city had commonly provided. But this group, they want you to pay the whole doggone thing. No one does that. No one with any common sense, that is. So you wind up asking a baseball organization to be a housing developer. And that's not the way it's supposed to go. The city is supposed to find the housing developer, pair it with the Oakland A's, and then design the financing in conjunction with both groups and with grants as well to help that aspect of the ball get rolling. All right? That's the way that's done. So, assuming that Howard Terminal Ballpark doesn't get built, well, that's not happening, then what happens to the infrastructure money? Does that evaporate? The infrastructure money can be used for the port air issues, and I caution everybody, okay, that chunk of money that was identified by grants can be used in other areas and other purposes. But it was supposed to be tax increment financing money to bear on that, not grants. Sheng did it and Libby did it because Libby's claimed to me they didn't have a staff that knew tax increment financing and redevelopment. Although, hey, this expert's sitting right here. You've heard me say that a million times, right? But they didn't do it. Some other people think that they just simply didn't want to give them money. Some other people think that they simply just wanted the A's to go away and move anyway so they could clear the land for something else. I don't believe that. I go with the simple idea that, yeah, the city had forgotten how to do tax increment financing. Because if the city had remembered how to do it and how we used to do it, okay, all right, they would have realized that we used part of our redevelopment money in the past to pay staff members. which is how we were able to keep the salaries up to date and following increases with inflation. Didn't know that, did you? Yeah. We would do that with our redevelopment money because hey, it's a good reason. It's not a trick. If you have an assistant city manager that's drawing so many hours on a project that's in a redevelopment area, it really becomes a logical solution. But you got to have the redevelopment area, and it has to be active in collecting tax increment money, revenue, to be able to do that. Okay, that's one of the things we used to do. All right. Does Salt Lake City have its act together with regards to getting expansion? I have no idea about how Salt Lake City does work or doesn't work. I know I saw a presentation that was interesting, but in terms of their personnel and their acumen, I know zero about them. I can find out later. Oakland, I know like the back of my hand because I worked in Oakland and technically still do. Hoper says, I was going to set up a lemonade stand, but Oakland demanded that I provide low-income housing, etc. So I gave up. Just kidding, he says. But is Oakland investor friendly right now? No. I didn't mean the city government to provide it, but the citywide official to pay for it. Yeah. Okay. And he says, if I recall correctly, there was a big disagreement of opinion on the amount of low-income housing. Oakland wanted 15%. Well, see, here's my point. The percentage is not my concern. It's how the financing for it is done. All right. The way the city presented it, and Dave Cobble and I talked about this on our video interviews. They wanted the ACE to pay for the whole chunk. It's not, hey, here's this subsidy cost per unit, right? You fill that in. You do the gap. That wasn't presented to the athletics. I guarantee you, if it were, there would be a different song sang about Howard Terminal because it would have been indicative of a more professional, detailed, and determined process. We didn't have that. All right. It says, is building on the Coliseum Ground still an option? Yeah, it's still an option. It's never taken off. Is it? Now, the athletics are there. Okay. Can they build on the AESCG side? Sure. All right. As it stands. And the AESCG needs help anyway. They've got some squabbles that really are internal. But if they are not straightened out just so, they could scuttle the project. The fact of the matter is that the people who filed, and I'm going to talk about that after this video, but the people who filed the lawsuit are still quiet with respect to the press. They were, put out some stuff initially, but they're talking to me, but they're not taking aggressive action in general. They're sitting back and watching Ray Bobbitt do things, okay? And then complaining about him. So it says, there may be left land over from Brooklyn Basin. They're doubting of building more condos. They're not selling well. Well, I can't speak to what they're going to do. And Brooklyn Basin, that's Mike Gilmetti's territory. And I don't know if Mike wants to get back involved in the baseball game or not. Why don't you ask him? Or maybe I'll ask him. All right. Mike Gilmetti is the developer of Brooklyn Basin, but he was also involved in the first version of the Howard Terminal project that was led by the Let's Go Oakland group that was put together by former California Senator and great lady Barbara Boxer's son, Doug Boxer. I have an interview actually here with them. If you haven't seen it, let me know, okay? By putting your comment in the section saying, yeah, please show it. I'm happy to show that to you. So I don't know how that's going to go. But the bottom line is that Oakland is only talking expansion, all right? And there's no big plan. There's nothing at all. We've had a number of drawings too. We have drawings for the Coliseum that were created by Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. which the public really never got a good look at. We have what AASCG initially presented, and before that, we have another version of Coliseum City that was first created by Frank Dobson, Steve Lowe, and Bob Lesty, which was a different, more basic plan because they were the creators of Coliseum City, but they were trying to really fill in the void of not having any place to eat that's directly outside the stadium. So if you get to an A's game early and there's no active tailgate or activity, you'd like to be able to go to a restaurant or a bar and hang out, watch other games on a TV, kind of like what you can do at the Plank, right, in Jack London. Nothing, all right, at all. And so the Coliseum is the perfect example of why economic development doesn't work for sports, because the city that built the edifice didn't add in uses to generate economic activity. You have to have uses that generate economic activity in order to realize an economic output. That you would think a lot of economists who look at these things, right, would be smart enough to figure that out themselves and say, hey, by the way, you're missing a apartment, you're missing a cafe, you're missing an eatery, you're missing offices, you're missing shops, you're missing light manufacturing, right? None of that. But since many economists are not urban economics and trained in city planning, as am I, that's not how they think at all. And then many of them are hired for political purposes just to show that, oh, sports and economic development don't mix. They really do mix. There are a lot of fantastic examples of sports being the catalyst for economic development. I can name one. We used to call it Pac Bell Park. You now know it. You know now it is Oracle Park. It is also in what was a redevelopment area. Yep, it was a tax increment financing zone. And I worked there way back in 1989, going to 1992 for Polaris, when I was hired to write a study called African Americans in San Francisco, 1960 to 1990. Very proud of the work that I did for the late Noel Day. Rest in peace. I had a lot of fun working for the Polaris research team. But then, all right, they were located on King Street, actually in the same set of buildings that's over there now. But then the Embarcadero Freeway went over King Street and around and hugged San Francisco. It was a big wall. So if you ever look at old streets of San Francisco broadcasts and where they come over the bay and to downtown San Francisco and they do this flyby of Embarcadero, they fly over that overpass, okay? The Loma Prieta earthquake in 1979 caused that to be so severely damaged it had to be torn down. But in the tearing down, it gave way to what you see now. And Willie Brown, even before he became mayor of San Francisco, but when he was Speaker of the California California Assembly, the Ayatollah of the Assembly, had accurately predicted that if that freeway came down, the resulting Embarcadero would look a lot like the Champs-Élysées in Paris. That was a good call by Willie. He was spot on. He was absolutely spot on. So I think here is, would Major League Baseball put Oakland ahead of the other cities because of the money the A's would lose from broadcasting? I would. I certainly would. But here's the thing, all right? Because if they're in Sacramento, all right, I'm not of the idea that the loss in media money or is like a switch you turn on and off. Because the one thing you have to remember is that wherever the A's go, they do carry their fan base with them. In other words, it's not always just the population, especially not in the internet age. You command a worldwide audience. So the attraction for that media among a set number of people who are hardcore fans is there and expanded because of the existence of radio on the internet. So I would not say that, oh, this is going to be worth a lot less than 70 million. They're still the A's. And what works for the Athletics is something called scarcity. There's only one Major League Baseball team called the A's in the American League that is focused on Oakland and the East Bay. If you take a look at the Major League Baseball Constitution, all right, and that remains until they leave for Las Vegas, and that'll be the case in Las Vegas. The dot of emphasis moves with them. It doesn't stop. It's not like, oh, hey, you're leaving Oakland, and so we stop. That's not how it works. The dot is them. All right. You're not going to stop paying attention to them because they're going to Sacramento. That has a dollar component to it in terms of rights fees. That does not go away at all. So don't be fooled by those who don't have to do the math behind those things and have their own understandable heart involved in it about seeing the A's leave Oakland. I get it. But I'm of the side of the A's having an economic development plan from the city and having incentives from the city that get them to stay. And one of those is, hey, look, right? What are you going to do with the Coliseum? How are you going to handle security? Where's your plan for that? And then you want an expansion team. Where's your vision? All right. In other words, the problems that caused the Athletics to leave are still there. And the mayor might think, hey, I'm new, I'm going to do things differently. But newsflash, Mayor Thao is simply reflecting the same kind of problems that the city of Oakland has been faced with because of its strong mayor system. You have a lot of lay people who don't want professionals to be in charge. Under council manager form of government, the professionals had a say and were in charge of key aspects of how the city was ran. That's the way it should be. And those professionals, if they do their job better, guess what? Guess who comes out looking good in the end? The politician. All right, the politician. Can Oakland credibly make the claim that it's serious about an expansion team unless it is willing to extend the Coliseum lease? Well, it can do that. It can do that. It can make that claim. I'm not going to go there and say, hey, you've got to extend the lease right? But does it look better? Of course it looks better. See, to my mind, the A's need to stay because they market the city. I think there's this idea that they only produce 1.2 million and nothing else. That's not true. The Athletics do the businesses that choose to sell food during those contests and other items make money for people. They make money for the vendors out there, some of them who are illegal alien, who should be allowed to operate. Those hot dogs are pretty good. I completely disagree with how Henry Gardner has handled this. It is a black eye in the face of those who favor economic development for those who do not have a lot. Okay? That's what economic development really is supposed to be about. Somewhere along the way, some of us forgot that. But that's what it's supposed to be about. All right? Okay, so I'm going to switch over now. It's 34 minutes and 5 seconds, and I'm going to talk about Mr. Bobbitt. So give me approximately 5 minutes. That ends this broadcast. Live long and prosper, and please, if you haven't done so, subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. Thank you.